Minor detail.
You know.
Wait, I got it.
You would think that at some point, we've been doing this for how long?
I know.
Make sure-
Over a year.
You know what? I'm surprised they greenlit us for a second season on this.
Don't forget the
Yeah.
them over there.
You know, Ruben, what would we do without you?
I don't know. You would throw a party.
Why are you?
Where are you going?
Why'd you do that?
Why not? You like to come out on all cameras.
Yes,
Mindy,
Ruben.
right?
Oh my God, Ruben.
All right. We're working out
Okay.
a few kinks here. Whoa. Something happened here. Let's see. Hold on, Mindy. All right. Good morning, everyone. I am working on the camera situation here. But I do want to take the opportunity to welcome everybody to our All's in This Together program. It is Wednesday, and like usual, we are here with my good friend.
Thank you.
My good friend.
Mindy Caso. And
Mindy
it's
Caso.
very nice to be here. I missed the last episode with you because I
Yes,
needed
we
to go
know
to
that.
San Antonio. My son had an appointment in San Antonio that we needed to head off to. But we've got a really good show coming up. Some good information that we're going to be able to share with our listeners,
Well-
with our viewers. So we're excited about that.
But I don't think we would ever say that we were going to have a bad show.
No, that is true. And actually, every show is so informative. You were telling me that the show that I wasn't able to
That
co-anchor
was
with
the
you.
best one ever.
That's what you told me. That's what I heard from several folks out there. So talk about
You know, you
FOLO. I know, fear of losing out. FOLO. I felt so bad because I wanted
Isn't
to
it
be a part
FOMO?
of that. FOLO, fear of losing out, fear of missing out.
It's
FOLO,
FOMO.
FOMO.
Not
I don't know.
FOLO.
Well, I've heard them both.
I've never heard of FOLO.
FOLO.
No.
FOLO. I don't know.
All right.
Anyway.
All right. Well, you may have just started something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But again, we got everything worked out. Again, I want to welcome everybody for joining us on our All's in This Together. We have a great show planned for you. You know, and again, we put I want to say we. Maxine puts a lot of thought into this.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. We can't take credit.
We can't take, and I keep telling her, I am going to hire her as our producer one of these days, and
Steal her away.
I am going to steal her away. You wait and see. Huh?
What's the prize? Name your prize,
Name-
Maxine.
All right, there we are, Maxine. Hey, say wave to everybody.
Yeah. Yay.
There you go. Everyone knows Maxine, but we're also pleased to welcome here this morning Ms. Ginny Funk. She's the program director up in San Antonio for the Alzheimer Association. And Ginny, I want to thank you so much for joining us here this morning as well.
Yeah.
Maxine, I got to tell you, for somebody who does not know too much about the television industry or for the news industry, we survive with producers. And if we don't have producers, there's very little that Mindy and I could do, or any of the anchors can do. But Maxine is so detail oriented.
Oh my gosh.
She is gets everything set. She sends us our list. This is your guest. These are the topics. These are the questions. We got the easy part here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know what we would do without Maxine, because even the topics and the guests that you find for us, Maxine, are tremendous. And we hear from viewers all the time how informative they are. And of course, that's because of your efforts, Maxine. So thank you so much.
And if we have good shows, it's because of you, Maxine.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that very much.
All right.
But it can't happen without the boss.
I think it'll turn into a little drag down fight here, Ginny. Well, Ginny, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. And like we mentioned, you are the program director for the Alzheimer Association for San Antonio area. So tell us a little bit more about what you do. Tell us, what your job is, what you do as program director, so that everybody can know what your role there is with the Alzheimer Association.
Absolutely. I have the fortune of getting to work with Maxine and Diane. 3 of us make up the care and support staff of our chapter covering 43 counties. So we have a very large geographical area. And I'm very blessed to get to work together with these 2 incredible women to make sure that we are continuously raising awareness and bringing information and support to families who are on this journey. So overseeing things like our services and support groups, education, getting the word out about our helpline. I also serve as helping with our grants. We have, everything we do is based on people making donations so that we can do everything we do at no cost. So we also write a lot of grants across our chapter. And I also am really blessed to be a part of what's kind of called our research champions team, which means I am not doing research, but I am involved in some training to be able to share what's happening in research in the world of Alzheimer's and dementia, because not only do we want to be able to help every family out there who's on this journey or who thinks they may be on this journey, but we're also, ultimately our goal is to find an end to this, to have a cure, to find preventions so that future generations don't have to go through this. So getting updates on a regular basis about what is happening in research, and not just, our research program, it's phenomenal. We're not talking about just something that happens over in Sweden. We have researchers within our chapter that are funded by the Alzheimer's Association and that are incredibly dedicated. We're just really blessed that there are so many people who are invested like we are at the association in, again, finding treatments, finding a cure, finding ways to prevent, because ultimately, as so many families go through this, as you all know, the next question often is, well, does that mean I'm going to get it? Does that mean this is absolutely going to be part of my future? And thank heavens, it does not. It doesn't mean that. I hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, this is a hereditary disease. Well, actually, we don't talk about it like that, because it can be in families that have no history. So anyway, I kind of went off track there as far as what I do, but I get to answer helplines. I get to help with grants. I get to help represent the association out in the community. We are constantly recruiting volunteers, as you all know, and just really trying to reach more people. One of the things that I think that we will talk about later today is that for the first time, we actually have statistics countywide rather than across the state. And it's very evident in the state of Texas that our chapter in particular, we are hit extra hard by Alzheimer's and some of the other related dementias. And so that makes it even more clear that we just have so much more to do, right? So much more.
And Ginny, why is that? Why are counties in South Texas showing more prevalence for Alzheimer's? Has the research come out with, is a sedentary lifestyle? Is it foods? Is it, the water? Has there been any kind of red flags that have come out that are showing why?
Absolutely. And it stands true across, when now looking across the entire United States, having these statistics for the first time ever, being able to look at, okay, there is most definitely a link between other diseases and later developing Alzheimer's disease. So for example, diabetes is something that is as we know, it's a horrible disease. It wreaks havoc on the body. It does the same thing as far as having an incredible impact on cognitive health and cognitive decline, especially for families as they grow older, especially after the age of 65. And also, we do know that the statistics are that for Hispanics, individuals develop Alzheimer's disease at 1.5 times the rate as their Caucasian counterparts. And for African Americans, it's 2 times. So looking at also things like hypertension, heart disease, stroke, there are so many links now between those diseases and seeing a later higher prevalence of developing Alzheimer's disease. So when you look at the demographics across our entire state, but particularly in our chapter, you know, there are just so many Hispanic Latino families that are affected by this, and the rates are they're just really staggering.
Wow. And that is scary. I mean, when you talk about, you know, those rates being staggering, and we are right here in the hub of that, you know, it makes you want to light a fire underneath just to, you know, do as much as we can to try to slow down those numbers, or, you know.
Yeah, you know, in the last program we were talking about a story that had come out, and I had seen it on one of the national networks, where excuse me, they showed a heat map of how much the percentage of the population affected by Alzheimer's, and there were some pockets in the Northeast, but one of the most staggering things is that you looked at the South Texas region, and that was dark red, which showed a much higher per capita people affected by Alzheimer's. And when I saw that, and it's one thing to hear it, you know, where Hispanics are affected more, and it's one thing to hear it, but then you see how it compares to the rest of the country.
Right.
And, you know, we're living in the area that there is a lot of Alzheimer's.
Right.
There's a lot of people who are affected by Alzheimer's in South Texas. It is incredible to see that visually.
Yeah, it's scary.
It is.
Very
It is,
scary.
yeah, visual, especially those dark colors, and all of this information is available. It's on our website. It's also, we publish every year facts and figures with the latest information. And again, this came out of the Alzheimer's Association's International Conference, which just took place in July. And I mean, we get asked a lot, well, you know, you have statewide statistics, but you don't have countywide. And this is the first time we've ever had countywide. And of all of them, it's kind of incredible, but El Paso County ranks 10th in the nation as far as prevalence among population 65 and older. So just overall Texas, but most definitely South Texas, we're also just at a higher risk. And what you also brought up, there are also continue to be so many research studies done on things like, well, what about environment? What about the foods that we eat? What about stress? What about sleep? All of those things have an impact on our cognitive health. And so yeah, the research continues for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we wanted to get straight into it because we understand that there has been some good research that has come out, some treatment options that have come out as well from last summer. So not too sure which one of those you want to tackle first, Ginny.
Well, it has been an incredible last couple of years for sure, because we're using the statement, we are in a new era of treatment for the first time ever for Alzheimer's disease. We have had FDA approved medications, but ultimately those only, for so many people, help with the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. Whereas now we are able to say that FDA has approved 2 treatments that actually have an impact on the biology of what's happening with amyloid in the brain. And those 2 are aducanumab, which is a mouthful, and Aduhelm is what it's known to, I guess, to everyone. And then lecanemab, which is known as Leqembi. And both of the treatments specifically were done, the whole study was done on individuals who are in early stages of the disease progress, the disease process with Alzheimer's disease, or who had mild cognitive impairment, sometimes referred to as a kind of precursor to Alzheimer's disease. So with these 2 treatments, they actually play a part in slowing down the disease progression, and individuals were able to, when you look at a scale, actually be able to stay in early stages longer. So it's not, these aren't cures. We don't get to call them a cure. They don't completely stop the progression of the disease, but what they did show significantly is that individuals were able to stay longer in earlier stages, which means they were able to make decisions for themselves longer, spend time with family members, like all of the things that, I mean, sometimes when we think of Alzheimer's, we think of individuals who are more in the middle to later stages when it's really, I mean, every part of this, as we all know, is awful, but at least in early stages of the disease, we know people are still working, driving, making decisions, able to live well, able to do so many things. And so by extending that time frame, being able to have some of those hard discussions about, okay, plans for the future, what happens when I need more care, who am I going to designate in the family to make decisions on my behalf? There are so many benefits to that. So it's groundbreaking. It's truly, truly incredible. Now, that doesn't mean that this all just has recently happened. So when we do get phone calls, you can't just automatically right now walk in and have availability of this. There's still so much that's happening. Also, because on the advocacy side, the Alzheimer's Association had to be very involved and instrumental in, okay, FDA approved these, but they're brand new treatments ever, and they're ridiculously expensive, and coverage through CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, is absolutely necessary, because to have a treatment and to have it not accessible to anyone is unacceptable. So
Absolutely.
we just literally, also, July was a huge month. July 2023 was a huge month. The FDA granted what they call traditional approval of Leqembi, and therefore that also had an impact on CMS being able to help with some of those costs. So we have a lot more to learn, a lot more before all of this gets rolled out, but it's really, it's exciting. And we know that a lot of this took place because people who live with Alzheimer's disease in the early stages testified. They shared their story. I mean, we know so many people who are not willing to share what they're going through, or to call helpline, or to reach out for help, or to ask for help in any way. But there are individuals who have decided, look, I'm gonna fight this with everything I have, and I'm gonna testify. And so they really, their voices had a huge impact in this. It's incredible.
Yeah, and Ginny, and then I want to go back to what you were talking about in July. Really was. I remember when the news came down of the different medications. I remember talking to Mindy. He goes, "Okay, we're going to have to talk about this one at the next program." But it is extremely exciting. And one of the things that you touched upon is the time factor. You know, it's not a cure. Obviously, that's what we're working for. It's not a cure, but it does buy some time,
Right.
Precious time,
Right.
to be able to spend some more time with family, to be able to make the most of it. When you're diagnosed with Alzheimer's, that's what it's critical.
Yeah.
It's what it's about at that
Yeah.
point.
Every minute counts.
Is every minute counts at that point, because we talk about it, is that this is the only disease in the top 10 that doesn't have a cure.
Exactly.
Or doesn't have anybody who has been cured of this. And so at this
Right.
point, time is a huge thing to be able to buy that time. And the other exciting thing is not only that we have the medication now, but we build on this now and make these medications maybe more efficient or more effective, or maybe that there is another class of medication that now comes from this that is even better, and you start to progress, and that becomes even more exciting in terms of where we're going to go with treatments and whatnot, and it really is the building block for a lot of where we're headed with this.
Yeah. And Jeannie, do we know why some of the insurance agencies or CMS are not yet allowing insurances to pay for these medications?
Well, let's see how best to answer this. That's a great question. I think overall, if you look at the prevalence that we know, 1 out of 8 people over the age of 65 develop Alzheimer's disease, and it's 1 out of 3 over 85. So the sheer number of individuals, and then looking at, again, cost-wise, I think some of that barrier is just, maybe there's just an overwhelming, the numbers of people and also the cost of this, it's gonna be tough. But again, I often hear people in our training, our researchers, they do talk about how there's some similar tracking to this in what happened with cancer. When the very first treatments for cancer were developed and approved, they were ridiculously expensive. It was hard to get coverage, but then kind of once that happened, the floodgates opened, and then more and more, and certainly there are, more positive things than ever on the cancer front. And so it's similar, I think, in that it's taking a lot of advocacy. It's taking people, again, sharing their stories and testifying and talking about, okay, we have this, but it has to be accessible, and it has to be, there has to be some coverage, because in the beginning, it was, from what we understand, the only FDA approved medication or treatment for anything that didn't have some sort of support through CMS. So, for the last year, at least, the association has been advocating for, first it had to be that FDA gave Leqembi what they call traditional FDA approval, not a special kind of approval.
No.
And then, it's kind of, not to get too technical, but I just think this is just, we just feel like now we have to ramp up with so much more information, because, the next question is, how do we get this? Where are we going to be able to get this?
Yeah.
What coverage will there be? What about through insurance, private insurance companies, all of those kind of things. Thank heavens, the association, I can't even tell you, this organization, they had the foresight, I guess, years ago to develop health systems, a whole area that the association didn't necessarily have before, to where now there's so much more of a target of being able to reach large health systems and have an impact on this, so that we will be able to have information on where you can go to get this, and all of the treatments that we absolutely believe are now going to make it through, are coming down the pipeline, and finally.
I know.
Not soon enough, right? For those of us who have lost people on this journey, but thank heavens it's happening now.
I think I was going to say, I think this is the first time from when Jerry and I started the podcast last year. It just seems like the memento over the summertime just started picking up. And, being in the news, we get, news comes down the wire every day. And it's just started getting a little bit more exciting with everything that we were hearing about. So I think a lot of people have hope now, and that's always a great thing. You need to have hope. Can't ever lose the hope that something's going to happen.
Yeah, totally. Our guest this morning is Ginny Funk. She's the program director for the Alzheimer's Association in San Antonio. Ginny, thank you so much for being with us here this morning. We were talking earlier about the AAIC. Would you care to tell us a little bit more about it and why it's important?
Sure, absolutely. So every year, the Alzheimer's Association convenes. Well, this year it was more than 10,000 researchers.
Wow.
And
Wow.
due to COVID, when that first started, they had to figure out what to do. And since then, like we have with many of our programs, it's either attend in person or attend online. And so thousands of people were also able to tune in to this international conference where researchers from around the world present their latest findings in the last year. This in July, it was held in Amsterdam. In 2024, it'll be back in the United States. And so I'll just kind of share some of the highlights that came out of AAIC. Of course, you can find all of this online, but some of the biggest stories were certainly being able to have the county-wide prevalence and being able to show different regions. That really does have an impact on being able to get support, to get funding, all those kind of things. Blood tests. So as we know, it can be really difficult to get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease or another dementia. And so there are things in development, including blood tests that are now being used in clinical trials, but they're not available yet to the public and doctors' offices. But really two significant, these were out of Sweden, by the way. Sweden is kind of an amazing place for research for Alzheimer's, but they did look at, this very simple way of doing a finger prick blood test that shows being able to, as a biomarker, determine if someone has Alzheimer's disease. And the two studies that came out were just really significant that it's coming. There will be a time where the process of getting a diagnosis will be much more simplified. And gosh, I just think about, again, when you look at just our region and our chapter, whether you're in a big city or small and rural, getting a diagnosis is really, really hard.
It is.
If and when we get to the point where blood tests are available, it will help this process so much. So that was a biggie. Chronic constipation. We kind of, we talk about this as not jokingly, but there were most definitely large studies that revealed the relationship between gut health and the brain, and that individuals with chronic constipation had significantly worse cognition, equivalent to 3 years more of chronological cognitive decline than those who showed healthy bowel movements. So that was very, very specific. And actually UTSA found specific bacteria that are associated with an increased dementia risk. So that was huge. And that was also local, pretty incredible. Let's see, what else? They looked at hearing. They did these tests to look at how hearing aids and people being able to hear better reduced long-term cognitive decline in older adults. And it looked at it was a 3-year intervention of using hearing aids, hearing toolkit, and it showed that hearing intervention slowed cognitive decline with mild to moderate hearing loss by 48%. So it was huge. It was absolutely incredible. And some of the things behind that were, if someone can't hear, how much longer does it take their brain to process information, to try to understand, to be able to respond? So anyway, that whole study was called the Achieve study. And so that was really significant too, that has to be part of an evaluation, and really trying to do as much as possible to be able to help individuals be able to in any way possible through hearing aids or accessibility of that kind of equipment, be able to hear better longer. So that was really significant for sure. Volunteering. There was University of California, Davis examined volunteer habits amongst all kinds of diverse populations and found that volunteering was associated with better baseline scores on tests for memory, thinking, planning. And they said volunteering may be more important for better cognition later in life, more than a lot of other things. So again, looking at food and all those kinds of things are important, but volunteering, especially later in life, keeping that socialization, keeping the brain working, active, challenged, is a really good thing. So of course, we're going to share that information when we're at Walk to End Alzheimer's meetings, that, you know, we cannot thank our volunteers enough, and we always need more. So.
Yeah.
And if you volunteer early enough,
Yeah, I was just going to say.
you got to head start on stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this information is just really critical. And of course, it's so important to be sending it out. So we do want to thank you. And of course, all the folks who have tuned in this morning, you know, take notes, because this is good information for folks to spread out there, that there are things that are going down.
You know, I want to ask you, Ginny. You were talking earlier about the information that down to the county level. By any chance, would you happen to have the information for as it pertains to Webb County?
Ooh, Maxine, are you on the call still?
I'm here.
Do you have that right in front of you by chance?
You mean the percentage is 15%?
15%. And so Maxine, so that 15% is the amount of the population that has Alzheimer's in Webb County?
The 15% of the population, 65 and older population in Laredo for every 10,000.
Wow.
Over 65.
15%.
Over 65.
Correct.
Wow.
Wow. That's pretty big.
Well, and I got to tell you, I mean, when you look at it, it's one thing to hear that number, which in and of itself is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
But when you see it compared to the rest of the country, you really it hits home as to when we hear Hispanics are affected at a higher rate than other demographics.
Right.
And it is just amazing. 15%.
Yeah.
That is
and Maxine, is that Alzheimer diagnosis? Is that any other type of dementia? Do they group it all together?
It's grouped together, and it's based on the reported cases. I mean, there may be more cases that perhaps people haven't seek a diagnosis at this time through interventions like this, that we talk about it constantly, that we are bringing more awareness, like with the walk coming up and people becoming more aware. And again, any treatment are going to only be as effective as we seek early interventions. And again, you know, having to allocate resources to fight the pandemic. We talked about COVID being a worldwide pandemic, but we hardly ever speak of Alzheimer's also being just as prevalent and maybe affecting more families in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, speaking of families, there is a really big conference that's coming up in September, where I was going to ask you all if you all have already had a chance to put that agenda together. It's for caregivers, and I know we've been talking a lot about that. Will there be information disseminated to caregivers so that they can understand what's going on, and also give them hope, you know, about these new research, new treatment options that are coming down?
So we will have Dr. Gabe out of UT, the Research Center, talk about dementia and all of the different forms of dementia. He will be our first speaker that day. It is going to be held on Thursday, September the 21st. Registration starts at 8 in the morning, and the actual program starts at 9 at the UT Education and Research Center on 1937 Bustamante Street. So that being said, you know, we will have a very comprehensive agenda into which we will address dementia, we will address the treatments, the research, as well as the resources that are local and unique to Laredo, so families can maximize on the usage of them, and relieve some of the stress of caring for their loved one, and also becoming more aware of what's out there to help based on funding available, obviously. And also having these conversations again, if you intervene early enough in the disease process and you're able to still make decisions for yourself, having financial and planning and legal conversations with your family. How do you want to be cared for? That would be part of that presentation as well. So making sure that we have a well-rounded conversation with our caregivers and people with a disease, because we have to face it, the earlier you get diagnosed, you're still very much engage in your care, and you can have these conversations at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that would also make a really big difference if you do have those folks who are still early enough in their diagnosis, go there, because there is a lot to be said for hearing hearing the motivation and the inspiration, to not give up. So that's good to know.
And a lot of times easier said than done sometimes, because sometimes people don't want to go early because they don't want to hear the possibility that they've got Alzheimer's or anything else. And so at that point, I would imagine that there's a lot of people who are probably saying, dang, I should have done this sooner, because I could have had access to, possibly these treatments. I could have maybe bought a little bit of extra time. And it's one of those double-edged swords. We don't want to hear it, but again, not paying attention to it is not going to make it go away.
And in this particular case, it's the opposite. You do want to hear it early, because those are the ones that have access to these medications.
I want to go back to something you posted on the chat here this morning, Maxine. Talking about conversations that you should have with your primary care physicians to access some of the treatments that we've talked about. And just out of curiosity, and it just kind of piqued my interest, I know that a lot of these medications are new. They've just recently received their approvals from the Food and Drug Administration. But do you know of anybody in our region here who are already receiving these treatments, and have they already been available to maybe people in South Texas that you know of?
I'm not aware of South Texas, but maybe San Antonio. Jenny, have you heard of anybody?
Possibly through clinical trials, but not yet.
Okay.
Not yet available. Boy, when we have that information, when it gets to that point, we will absolutely shout it from the rooftop for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of people are going to be wanting to get, a hold of some of these medications if they fit, of course, within the criteria that qualify for it.
All right. Well, we're coming almost to the end of our hour. I do, obviously, we want to close with our program, Maxine, talking about, hey, let's talk about volunteering. It's going to help. It's going to help you down the road. Let's talk about volunteering. I know we have a lot of events coming up. We talked about the conference. There obviously people can still sign up. They can still register. They can still call to get some information on the conference that's going to be held here in town, where there are going to be all different types of topics, all different types of informative lectures from the experts. And all different areas of what people need to know about Alzheimer's. And so it's a great opportunity to go get some information and just join the community, because there is strength in numbers. We all know that for sure by going to walk. There is certainly strength in numbers, and there is comfort in numbers as well. And so that is the conference. And then obviously that is going to lead up to the huge, big crescendo of our walk. That we are going to be having here in town as well over at TAMIU. There's great opportunities still for people to sign up for teams. There are still opportunities for people to become sponsors. There's opportunities for people to volunteer. And there are all type of volunteers. And I don't want to say people thinking, well, they're not going to need what I have because, maybe I'm too short, or maybe I'm too this, or I'm too that. No, we've got opportunities for everybody. So, Maxine, you want to kind of walk us through the conference real quick, where people can get information, where people can register, and then talk about the walk again, where people can go to register for a team. It's not too early. don't wait. Do it now. To either sign up for a team, register to become a volunteer, or anything like that. You wanna give us?
And you know what? Also, Maxine, if you can include in there the sponsorships. I know last year there were so many sponsors, and they had their logo put onto the back of the Alzheimer's T-shirt. And I know that we've been asked, is there still time for that too? If you can include that information, that'd be great.
So starting with the conference, we're always, if you want more information, I can never advocate it not enough, or I can always say, please call the helpline. You can always get any information related to any conversations we're having this morning. If you want to just vent, that 800 number is available to you 24/7, and you can register via that number. The seating is limited for the conference. We want to fill the house, but we also want to make sure that you have a seat for these conversations. So please register. It is available and still open today.
And it's free, right?
Again, I'm sorry?
And it's completely free.
It's completely free. You can just come in and take advantage of all the resources that we would have our vendors available. And again, that 800 number, 1-800-272-3900, you can register. And we welcome you to these conversations, followed by all the education that we do every third Tuesday of the month. We're there to do education programs, except September, because we have the major event, which is the conference, and then we resume back again in October. And that leads us to our walk. There's still time to register. It will be held at TAMIU. Believe the deadline for the sponsors to have their logo on the T-shirt might have passed already, but I may not. I mean, PB would be the best one to answer that. But again, that's the opportunity for you to choose any way how you can support us by volunteering at Walk. And throughout the year, we're always looking for individuals that are willing to do presentations on our behalf, or even represent us at chamber events or table events, anything that will bring awareness to the mission. We always welcome you to our group. Just give us a call either via the 1-800 number, or I would put it in the chat so that you have access to us at any time.
Yeah. And just
but
recently,
we're excited.
No, I was just going to say, just recently, y'all were at the big citywide Driscoll Health Fair. That was pretty neat, as well as the LISD convocation, correct?
Indeed. Yes, thank you to our fabulous volunteers. They were able to support us in those two events, and we had a great turnout to our table. We were very pleased with that.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, we certainly are looking forward to having a larger walk. Last year, there were so many walkers. I think it was 700 or something like that. And we're pushing for 1,000 this year. We're hoping we get a good 1,000 walkers this year.
It was a sea of purple, let me tell you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It was really awesome.
Perfect. Maxine, want to thank you as always. We will see you here next time. And Ginny, are you still there?
I am.
Jenny,
I am. Thank you.
Any final comments that you would like to give our people who are watching? Before you do that, I got to tell you, I love the artwork behind you.
Thank you. Thanks. I don't know if I can tilt this, but yeah. I have a whole office. If you could just see the whole thing.
I totally can. As I've been talking to you, I was looking at him, and it adds so much color to your office in there.
Thanks. I've got rows and rows of, and all of them done by individuals with some form of dementia. And we're really blessed in San Antonio. There's a group, Home Instead. They do a fundraiser every year where they ask different places to do these art projects with their residents, and then these get auctioned off. And there's not a year in the whole time I've been here that I haven't come away with probably at least one or two that I've bid on in the auction. And they just they're very, very special. For sure.
And I was looking at those, and I go, there has to be some special story behind that artwork there behind you, and that is amazing to know that these were done by individuals who had Alzheimer's, and I can only imagine the rows and rows that you have of that artwork. It really adds a lot of color to the room, and they're just this whole time I haven't been able to get my eyes off of them.
Wow.
Thank you so much. They're very special. Each one of them. Wow. We have a lot.
Yeah. Any closing remarks, Ginny, that you would like to share with our viewers here this morning?
we can't thank the two of you enough for doing this program for the second year. And I cannot thank Maxine enough for everything that she does. She's one person covering a huge area. And just really appreciate her and Diane, the three of us, we just, we have also amazing volunteers. We always need more, and just, keep your eye on our website, especially the research section on all of these new things that are coming out. There's more attention than ever. Thank heavens.
Wow.
And this is our time again, a new era of, for the first time ever, treatments for Alzheimer's disease. It's big.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you so much for joining us here this morning. It has, as always, it's been fun, it's been informational, and it's been educational. So thank you for everything that you do for Alzheimer's patients and for the mission of the Alzheimer's Association. Work is not done, it's just beginning, right? Even though we've made significant strides, we still have a long way to go.
We sure do. And, for our viewers out there, for those that are listening now, or if you're going to be listening in the future, because, you can't tune in exactly right now, just make sure that you forward and share this podcast with anybody out there who you think needs to hear this information, definitely.
That's right. And we are now not only on Facebook, but we are now on YouTube as well.
Yay.
So you can catch us there. You can catch we're going to try to get the old programs loaded up onto our YouTube as well. That way you can catch it there as well, because there is going to be something in any one of our programs that is certainly going to be insightful or helpful, or something that's just going to be, wow, you know what, I did not know that. Thank you so much, because this is exactly what I needed to hear. So we'll get those up, but it has been great for us. I know Mindy to be able to do this. Well, I don't want to say week after week, but we're not there yet. But as we get closer to walk, you're going to be seeing us do this every
Wednesday.
Weekend, every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
I want to thank you at home for watching us here this morning on All's in This Together. We will be back here. Are we here next Wednesday, or Wednesday after?
Vaccine, I think it's the following.
We'll talk about policy updates, making sure that your voice is being heard and how we can better prepare and care for our loved ones.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, so we'll be back in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 2 weeks. 2 and 2. I'm like doing the Chuck Woolery, 2 and 2. All right, Maxine, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Jenny, thank you so much.
Thank
Mindy,
you.
any final remarks?
Final thoughts? No, you know what I always love to say, share, because we've got to reach as many people as we can out there, and just make sure that they don't lose the hope.
Yeah, because we are
all's in this together.
All right, we will catch
Absolutely.
you here in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for spending time with us here this morning. Have a blessed day.